So what is dementia? I mentioned that it's not a diagnosis. It's a general term indicating decline in mental ability severe enough to interfere with activities of daily living. And this is out of the DSM-5. They're now calling it major neurocognitive disorder. I probably aren't going to see that on a chart because right now this term has not been universally adopted, but it's still not a diagnosis. But it's major neurocognitive disorder that's going to affect their activities of daily living based on Alzheimer's, vascular, frontal temporal, Lewy, Parkinson's, substance abuse, Huntington's. There's about 80 different dementias out there. These are the ones that I see most often. So what is dementia? It's a structural change. It's permanent. The cells are shrinking and dying. They're producing and sending less chemicals. But you know what's so beautiful sometimes is they can shine. Anybody seen that movie, The Notebook? So she's dancing with her husband. She remembers him for a moment. She's shining, but then it fades really quick, and now she doesn't know who he is, and she tells him to get out of here. And so that, when somebody shines like that, embrace it, but it doesn't mean they're getting better. It just means they had a chemical rush. There's 4 truths about dementia. At least 2 parts of the brain are dying. It's chronic, it can't be fixed, it's progressive, and it'll get worse. And it's terminal. That's really, really sad, but that is the fact with all dementias. There's 4 core cognitive domains: recent memory, ability to learn and recall new information. This is classic Alzheimer's right here, okay? If I'm trying to introduce a walker to somebody with Alzheimer's, there's a good chance that they're going to pick it up, they're not going to know what to do, or they're going to tell you, okay, and then the next minute, I just told you to use your walker. They don't recall. That's part of the hippocampus. New information is not stored. Another domain is language, either comprehensive or expression. We do know this. As the disease progresses, they're missing every 4th word. Now, some people might think they're hard of hearing. And if you're hard of hearing and you got dementia and you're missing every 4th word, now you've got even more challenges because they're missing content of information. Some people, depending on the dementia, may be cognitively intact, but they can't find the right word. And that would be in the early stages and more of a frontal temporal dementia where they have the aphasia part. It can also happen with Alzheimer's too. Visual spatial ability, comprehension and an effective manipulation of nonverbal, graphic, and geographic information. So you've heard me talk about Don Kent. He's got Lewy body. That is how they diagnosed him. He had a neuropsych. He actually did pretty well on memory, but he failed on the visual spatial. And that's matching up little diagrams, driving, okay? You know, here's the line that you pull up to. He may pull way out here. He tells me that when he goes to visit his son in DC, everything's a basement. He can't see the stairs. It looks like a slide. So dementia affects all senses: what we see, what we hear, what we smell, taste, and feel. So his was really affected by what he sees. He's also got hallucinations, auditory and visual, but he's very intelligent. He's able to know that those are not real. Not everybody has the ability to know if something's real or not real. Executive function. This is your frontal lobe. This is where Grandma's never cussed a day in her life. She's cussing like a slayer. Where did she get those words? I've never heard Grandma say that. Or racial slurs. Grew up in a time where people use racial slurs. We don't do that. But what if she grew up in a time but she never said it because her frontal lobe said, you know, that's not a social norm. I can't say something like that. Well, now I've lost my frontal lobe and I'm going to say something that's ugly and I don't mean to, but I have brain failure and And that's why some of those ugly words come out, the swearing, the sex talk. I've lost my frontal lobe. So, ability to plan, perform abstract reasoning, solve problems, focus despite of distractions, and shift focus when appropriate. So we know that the brain can handle 5 to 8 different things at one time. We call that multitasking. But I will tell you, and anybody that's ever done this, when I was studying for my exam, sometimes I'd get on my phone and I'd go back to studying. It took me a while to reset my brain, even though I was doing 2 things at one time. We really aren't very good at multitasking because every time we start to do something different, it takes a while to reset the brain. People with dementia, they can't reset their brain. Alzheimer's doesn't take away memory. Your memories are all in there. The part of the brain that's damaged is the part that gives you access to the memory. That's that hippocampus. It's as if you put the memories in a glove compartment and you lost the key and the art to unlock it. Okay, so we're going to talk about the brain. I like to call it brain failure because that's what's going on. In nursing we say congestive heart failure, kidney failure, but we don't tend to say they're in brain failure. Now what I have found is when I'm working with a caregiver and I show them this and I talk about brain failure, it's like they're finally starting to understand that that person really is having a difficult time because it affects all lobes. With Alzheimer's, it's going to start in the temporal lobe, and that's where they ask you the same question over and over again. The frontal lobe, we talked about that, problem solving, emotions, behavioral control. This is where you see the personality really changing. Motor cortex. This one, as the disease progresses, you'll start noticing the gait becoming a little different. They kind of shuffle. Now, this is really, we have a program called Day Club. Anybody ever brought their loved one to Day Club? Okay. Who is is it your dad? My brother. Your brother, okay. I remember him. He's precious. So we had a little lady, she's not with us anymore, but she learned how to dance very young with her husband. Do you know who I'm talking about? And she'd come in like this. She's about 4'9".
That's her very much.
Huh?
That's her very much.
I know, me too. She's precious. And the husband would come in at 1 o'clock to dance with her. And that little lady all of a sudden could dance like you would, turn and carry on. And then when the music stopped, she's right back here doing that. Now, that's a motor memory. Now, the reason why Dave brings up my unicycle is I learned how to ride that when I was 8. And I've lived all over the United States and took my unicycle with me, never rode it, put it up in the attic. About 4 years ago, when I started learning more about the brain, I thought, I wonder if I can get on that thing. I got on it like there was no tomorrow, like no time had passed. That's a different part of my brain. So I tell those people who know me, if I ever get dementia, bring my unicycle, because I might be able to do that for a while to the nursing home. Anyway, those motor memories are really interesting. Same with music is real huge. I'm going to talk a little more about that in a little bit. But when I worked in long-term care, I had a PhD music professor. He had Alzheimer's, hadn't played a clarinet in years. His daughter brings it to the memory care unit. He looks at it, and he starts playing Mozart. It gives me chills bumps. The most amazing thing. He didn't even know he could do it, but that was still there. Now, not for much longer, but it was something that she brought in, that she could share a relationship, a connection with him, and he really enjoyed it. Sensory cortex. Some hearing loss, but dementia doesn't really affect the hearing that much. We kind of think it does sometimes because they're missing content. But like I said, if they're hearing impaired and they're missing every 4th word, then they're really having a hard time understanding you. The parietal lobe, making sense of the world, arithmetic. We're going to focus on this occipital lobe a little bit later. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the limbic system because this is the engine of our brain. Very, very, very important with dementia. So we have the hippocampus, okay, and that's this little thing that looks kind of like a seahorse. It plays an important role in emotion, learning, and memory. The amygdala plays a role in aggression, eating, drinking, and sexual behaviors. So anybody know what the amygdala is? Anybody an introvert? Don't like people in your space? Is everybody in here an extrovert? I could come up and hug you and you'd be all, well, I know you would.
I can go either way.
You can go either way. Okay. Well, if I'm an introvert and I've had Alzheimer's or some related dementia, and that person doesn't know that's caring for me that I'm an introvert, and I come up to them and I come up to their side without them knowing I'm here, I'm going to frighten them and I may get a whack. Now, people living with dementia are in survival mode, and the amygdala is part of our fight or flight. If I were to throw a snake on you, are you going to think about that? Are you going to process? Go talk to somebody, hey, a snake just fell on me and I'm not sure how I should feel about this? No, it's a basic survival instinct to run. Everybody ever got so scared you just got the chill bumps and you're just, oh. Well, that part is very, very important with people living with dementia. So I got a little lady right now that's on hospice of East Texas, by the way, and she's biting. Why is she biting? The other thing, dementia will rob you of skills before it robs you of strength. She's in a jerry chair. Now, what I think is all in the approach, okay? If she doesn't know what somebody's doing to her and her amygdala goes off, I'm in survival mode, then the only thing I have to protect myself is to bite. And that's why people do what they do and we're going to work on that positive approach to care on how we approach somebody, because their amygdala is going to go off and they're going to be in survival mode. The hypothalamus, did I say that right? It didn't quite come out right. Nursing students, did I say that right? Okay. Monitors blood levels, glucose, salt, blood pressure, hormones. Melatonin is a huge hormone that's depleted. It causes, research right now is saying that that's part of the reason people have sundowning in the afternoon, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little more. So the other part of the limbic system is the autonomic nervous system. This is my circadian clock. Okay, I'm going to wake up at 5:30 and I'm going to go to bed at 9 and hopefully sleep all night, but I'm at that age where I wake up around 2 o'clock. It's a hormone thing. But if I have Alzheimer's, my circadian clock is broke. I'm going to wake up all different times of the day. I'm going to get my day and night really confused. And that's what's going on in the brain. The other thing that's going on with the autonomic nervous system is my thermostat. I'm cold all the time. It can be 100 degrees outside, and I can see somebody in Walmart with their loved one and can pretty much guess that they have some form of dementia because they've got sweaters on when it's 100 degrees outside. And the reason for that is their thermostat's broke.